February 28, 1997. It's a quiet morning in North Hollywood, Los Angeles. Suddenly, the calm shatters. Automatic gunfire echoes through the streets. What started as a bank robbery has exploded into a full-blown war zone. Two men, armed like soldiers, are holding off hundreds of LAPD officers. For nearly an hour, the battle rages. Thousands of rounds are fired. Helicopters swarm overhead. And it's all being broadcast live on national television. This event, forever known as the North Hollywood Shootout, would fundamentally change American policing. The men behind the chaos were Larry Phillips Jr. and Emil Matasareanu. They were an unlikely pair. Larry was the son and grandson of criminals, a failed bodybuilder who turned to scams and theft. Emil was a Romanian immigrant, a quiet and withdrawn man who was bullied for his weight as a child. They met at Gold's Gym in the late 80s, where they discovered a shared fascination with firearms and a dangerous appetite for risk. At the time, Los Angeles was the bank robbery capital of America, with a heist happening, on average, every 45 minutes. But as banks tightened security, the game changed. Small-time crooks disappeared, leaving only the most ruthless and well-equipped crews. Larry and Emil were part of this new breed. They started with smaller robberies, then graduated to armored cars. In 1993, a traffic stop landed them in jail. Police found their car loaded with assault rifles, body armor, and thousands of rounds of ammo. But their sentence was short. Once they were out, they began planning something far bigger. By 1996, their heists were like military operations. They hit two Bank of America branches with chilling precision, walking away with hundreds of thousands of dollars. Now, they had a new target, the largest Bank of America in North Hollywood. They spent months preparing, stockpiling over 3,000 rounds of ammunition. They had AK-47s, an HK-91, and a modified XM-15 rifle. And they had built their own full-body armor from steel plates. By contrast, the average LAPD officer carried a simple 9mm pistol. If a firefight broke out, the police would be hopelessly outgunned. On the morning of the robbery, Larry and Emil took medication to steady their nerves and drove to the bank. Their plan was timed to the second, 8 minutes, in and out. But as they pulled up, they spotted a patrol car. A flicker of doubt, but they decided to go in anyway. At 9:16 a.m., they burst through the doors, guns blazing. They fired into the ceiling, forcing terrified customers and staff to the floor. They demanded access to the vault, but their intel was bad. The bank had recently changed its system. Instead of one large vault, there were now multiple smaller, time-locked cash boxes. To make matters worse, the large cash delivery they were expecting hadn't arrived. They had planned to escape with $750,000. Instead, they got just over $30,000, stuffed with hidden die packs set to explode. Outside, the first responding officers were already setting up a perimeter. Larry stepped out of the bank and immediately opened fire. The officers returned fire, but their 9mm rounds just ricocheted off his homemade armor. Meanwhile, Larry's armor-piercing bullets tore through police cars, cinder block walls, and anything else in their path. It was pure chaos, a deadly firefight unfolding in the middle of a suburban street, broadcast live to a horrified nation. Their escape plan was in shambles. The getaway car's tires were shredded, and the die packs had exploded, ruining the stolen cash. Larry stayed behind, providing cover fire, his AK-47 spitting bullets relentlessly. He was hit several times, but his armor held. Even after his arm was wounded, he kept fighting, switching to a pistol. Finally, his rifle jammed. Cornered, bleeding heavily, and out of options, Larry Phillips put his gun under his chin and pulled the trigger. Meanwhile, Emil had managed to hijack a car and tried to flee, but he was quickly trapped in a residential neighborhood. He tried to carjack another truck, but the driver had taken the keys. Just then, a SWAT team arrived, and a second gunfight erupted. Emil was shot multiple times in the legs, but he continued to fire from behind the vehicle. Eventually, wounded and overwhelmed, he surrendered. Officers, fearing he might have explosives, kept medics at a distance. 56 minutes after the shootout began, Emil Matasareanu bled to death on the pavement. In less than an hour, over 2,000 rounds had been fired. 12 officers and 8 civilians were injured. Miraculously, the only fatalities were the 2 robbers themselves. The televised images sent shockwaves across the country. 2 men had outgunned one of the largest police forces in the world. It was a brutal wake-up call. American law enforcement was dangerously under-equipped for this new era of violent crime. The aftermath was swift and decisive. In what became known as the birth of modern police militarization, departments across the country began a massive overhaul. The standard issue pistol was no longer enough. AR-15 patrol rifles, more powerful ammunition, improved body armor, and ballistic helmets became standard equipment for officers. The North Hollywood Shootout was a terrifying spectacle that exposed a critical vulnerability in American policing. It forced a dramatic shift in tactics and equipment, ensuring that officers would never be so devastatingly outgunned again. We all hope a nightmare like this never repeats itself. But one thing is certain. After that morning in 1997, law enforcement in America was changed forever. Thanks for watching. If you found this story as fascinating as I did, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into history's most impactful events. See you next time.